Good afternoon and welcome to the latest version of our Work Smarter Wednesdays. Today's session will be focusing on how we can simplify BIM data and model checking in Revit using our Naviate tool for construction. Naviate is the first part of the software that we'll be presenting in this series that's been created by Symmetry ourselves and very much been created as there's a gap in the market for these efficiency tools, and what we want to do is make you guys more productive and more efficient moving forwards. So I've got myself, Richard Brayshaw here, actually joining from UK Construction Week. So the eagle-eyed amongst you will have noticed that I haven't got the normal picture of Paris behind me today. And also joined by Jonathan Hand, who is our Naviate wizard and Autodesk Elite. I don't know what the right word is. Autodesk Elite partner, presenter.
Yeah, something like that, Richard. Thank you.
Something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So as Richard said, I'm Jonathan. I'm the technical manager here for Naviate here in the UK. So I sort of oversee everything from a technical perspective around the Naviate portfolio. I wouldn't quite go with wizard or elite, but yeah. So I'm tasked with sort of overseeing all the technical side. So hence the reason I'm on the call today to show some of the.
Perfect. So we'll go through the agenda very quickly. As usual, we'll do a quick introduction to Symmetry Construction. Those who've been on the calls before probably seen quite a bit of the stuff before. Just want to make you aware of everything that we offer. Then we'll dive straight into an overview of the Naviate product, and Johnny will be doing a demonstration of the solution too. And then we'll go into question and answers for anybody who's asked questions during the presentation. So please do throw them into the chat as we go through. And we'll have a bit of a discussion at the end around those. So in terms of what we do as a business, John, just bring it all up, Johnny. Yeah. So Symmetry provides solutions for the construction sector right the way from initial design and concept. We work with clients on EIR and AR specifications, then through the design construction process, which is also supported by manufacturing. So elements of the built environment will need to be manufactured and brought to site. So we provide solutions in that area too. In terms of the solutions we provide, we are a big provider of software, but what we look to do is provide services around that. So you're not just adopting software, but you're getting real benefits from it. So we provide training, support, and consultation on best use of that software and the associated processes. In addition, we also provide IT infrastructure, document management solutions to underpin that the software used to deliver a construction project. And we also have a project delivery team who make sure it's delivered to a high standard. If you could go to the next slide. So yeah, we've got a construction team who will be who support most of our clients in the implementation of the software. These guys have been either in the software or built environment sort of worlds for a large number of years now. We've got a sales team with over probably about 60-70 years experience between them, and a delivery team with even more than that. So these guys have worked for main contractors like Balfour Beatty, like Morgan Sindall, like Galliford Try, and know how to deliver these solutions on site. So it's not just a theoretical thing, but a full delivery and implementation for the real world. And Johnny joins from probably a bit more of a specialist team as actual providers of this technology, and supports us in the implementation of the software too. Next slide, please. So there are three main areas we look to help. So as I've mentioned a couple of times, there's the implementation and adoption of software. So that's looking at the technology you have at the moment, implementing solutions to complement or replace that technology, and also helping you adopt it. So if you're not adopting technology, there's no point in having it. So we're really keen that when we leave you, you're completely in control of the software and able to use it fully. We have a project support team, so we will actually stand shoulder to shoulder with your guys on projects, so employing them as BIM managers or information managers to actually help you deliver projects. They will, for a period of time, they will be part of your team and help you to deliver to your client standards as needed, or support you in managing a contractor or subcontractor if it's from the client point of view too. Then the third element we look to work with is digital transformation. So that's really understanding where you are today, what your ideal state is, and how we can move you through the levels of technology adoption and process change to get to that ideal state. Tends to be an iterative process, so we work with you on small chunks in terms of adopting technology, changing a process, but with a real sort of end goal in mind of making you smarter from a work more efficiently from a digital point of view. Next slide, please, Johnny. And then there are your projects, our projects. Projects are at the center of what we do. We want to understand what our customers are trying to achieve, what they're trying to build, how they're trying to build it, and work our solutions and work our services around those so you can deliver some of these projects that we've been working on over the last few years and other projects moving forwards too. Next. And then we come to partnership. We are probably best known as an Autodesk reseller. We are a big provider of Autodesk solutions, but we also partner with a number of other providers to provide quality solutions and fill gaps that our customers may have. We want to provide all the technology that you need in order to make you more efficient. Where we can't partner with somebody, we create our own solutions. So that's where CQ Flexmon's been created and CQI for the management and control of licenses. We've also got the Civilia product, which is a productivity tool which makes the use of manufacturing software such as Inventor more effective and efficient. And then we've got Naviate, which sits on top of the Revit solution and tries to help make the use of that more efficient for your business too. And without further ado, I'll pass over to Johnny to fully introduce Naviate for construction and also to give you a demonstration of the product.
Thank you very much, Richard. So yeah, I'm going to give you an overview of the Naviate portfolio for Revit. So I'm just going to switch over to jump into my Revit screen. I'm just going to minimize that. So as Richard said, the Naviate portfolio is an ecosystem of products that primarily sit within the Revit environment, but we also sit within Civil 3D, and we also have some cloud element systems as well. So what we're going to look at today is how Naviate can help the construction sector with simplifying the BIM data. Now, Naviate as a tool comes in lots of different industry-specific areas. So what you're looking at on my screen is the very latest version of Revit, which is Revit 2022.1, which came out late last week, and we're running the very latest version of Naviate. When you look at the Naviate ecosystem, it comes in various different industry-specific flavors. So we have a product which is tailored towards the architectural customers, and this gives you industry-specific tools for architecture, but we also have things for site and landscaping, where we've got tools for terrain topography, for floors, contours. We've got a structural element where we do reinforcement and piling. We've got HVAC and plumbing. We've got rebar extension. And in reality, there's 9 different versions of Naviate that sit on Revit and 4 that sit on top of Civil 3D. Underpinning all the Revit platform is our Naviate Accelerate toolset. And this toolset comes with each individual industry-specific toolset, and this is your general day-to-day tools. It's this Accelerate toolset that I've looked at around the construction problems and the areas of focus that Naviate can help. So within the Naviate toolset for Revit, there's well over 150 different tools within the complete toolset. Now, I'm not going to show you every single tool today. I'm going to take a subset of tools that I think will be ideal to manage and simplify your BIM data. So we're going to start looking at the metadata areas and the sort of the problem areas that you will tend to have around just checking and manipulating data, whether it just be standard metadata within the Revit model, within the families, or for the more looking within the COBie environment where you need to do a COBie drop, the handover information. Just some of the tools that will be really good for you to start saving time to check, update, and manipulate all that type of data. So you can see that in my Revit, I've already got the BIM interoperability toolkit, and I've got some COBie schedules and data already sitting within my project. So I'm going to sort of flavor everything I want to do around sort of the COBie data, how we manipulate and manage that information. And you will see on the Accelerate toolset at the top, it's split into different sections in the ribbon, but the one I'm going to focus probably quite a lot today on is around the parameters and the management of that data in these values. And one of the biggest tools that sort of everyone uses day to day when they subscribe to Naviate is the Edit Parameter tool. And what this tool does, if I click it, it allows you to manipulate and manage that data, whether it be from a Revit category or whether it be from a schedule. So if I just look at the category section, first of all, this allows me to pick any category that's visible within the project. So here I can, let's say, for instance, select something to do with the walls, and it will load a little dialog box where it simply allows me to choose the parameters that I wish to review, modify, or edit. So here I can look at both instance and types. To show you an example of this, I can click the type parameters, I can select all parameters, select OK, and they will load into this dialog box, sort of like an Excel type matrix. And this gives me flexibility and visibility of what currently that metadata looks like. And it works very similar to Excel in the fact that you can jump into a cell and you can manipulate it. So I can select this cell, it will highlight, I can click delete, and I can select update values, and that's writing that parameter change directly back into the Revit family and into the model. I can also double click into it and input data, so I could just make a change like that, put in a fire rating, and then click update values. But you can also do this en masse. You don't have to do it cell by cell. You can start manipulating and adding data. So under the description, I could write a code that looks like something like that 100.100.01, and then you've got the same Excel type functionality. When you select a cell, you will see you look at a control feature, and I can drag that down. I'll be presented with various options for what I may want to do to that information. So I could fill based upon an incremental increase on the number. I could fill copy, so I could take all of this information down. I could just fill it all in all the cells. And again, the simple process in Naviate is to select update values, and it will simply write all them changes. So if you were doing that manually in Revit to find that information and check it, you were just selecting walls, editing the type, going into the parameters. This allows you to just make changes en masse. So you can see 20 parameters have now been easily updated. One of the great features in here is quite often you may have to search and replace data and look at what's correct and what's not correct. So I can highlight windows of information, I can right click, and I can go search replace, and I can search for the word internal and replace it with INT. So this time I'm looking at the actual type names. So this is modifying the physical type names of the families, which is quite cumbersome and time consuming to do in standard Revit. You will see here quickly I've just been able to go in and re-update them parameters, and then I can update values, and again I'm just writing that information. So you can add, manipulate, edit, change, delete that data, any category that you load in. If you wish to change what you're looking at, you can select the parameter values, then choose it to instance, load a different set of parameters, select OK, and the same principle will then exist. It will just make it so easy to show the data, find where it's not quite right, what you may want to change, and then you can then use the update button to manipulate them changes right back out into your model. You'll also see that I mentioned the scheduling, and this is where it's really good on the COBie side of things, because the interoperability toolkit will generate your schedules, and then you would have to go into the schedule and look at the data. But here, if we load a schedule in, you can see if we load, let's say, the room data in, you'll see it just fetches the data from the schedule, it then processes it, and then brings it into this same Excel type matrix where I can do the same things that I was doing previously. So you can see in here we've got missing data all over the place, and if you know the data, you can just go in and go add that in. So let's say, for instance, that was room 1, and then you could use the tools to start incrementing that data. So we could fill increment, you'll see it increments it from 1 to 21, update value. So again, I'm now not updating just the category, I'm firing that information directly out into that schedule. So it's just making it so much quicker and easier. Find the data that's inconsistent and then simply change it. So you've just got a really, really quick in-bed way to find data, manipulate it, and change it. Just one other feature that's quite useful in here is that if you decide to load in some content, you also have the ability to create a schedule off the back of it. So if I create all the room content to come into the matrix, we've got a button at the bottom called create schedule. So if I decide to actually build a schedule from within here, selecting the create schedule button will then automate the creation of that schedule. So if I've used that or versed in Revit, that can be quite a time-consuming, cumbersome process to create a new schedule, define all the parameters, position them, format them, and then create a schedule. Whereas here, I can just load them into the matrix, select OK, and you'll now see that my room schedule has now been created. So when I check my project browser, schedules, you'll see under the question mark, you'll see there is my new schedule. So you've got full flexibility whether you're editing the parameters from the categories, whether you're editing the schedules, or whether you want to go vice versa and create a schedule from the parameters. Naviate can sort of do all of them things. But that's sort of the simplified version of sort of modifying the parameters. What you'll find when you're looking at the COBie stuff is that lots of it will be empty. So if we look at, let's say, the standard, the room schedule, you will see that there's just lots of gaps. So I've got the standard information which has been generated. You can see there are some of my descriptions that I've put in. But what I may want to look at is start to look at, for instance, is there a way that Naviate could help populate the room tag information? Is there a way that we can take existing content, combine it together to create new parameters and assign data automatically into these schedules? And the answer for that is yes. So when we look at the editing button, to the left of that, we've got this feature called Combine. And this allows you to take multiple parameters together and combine them, put them in somewhere else. So by clicking the Combine button, it allows me to start picking categories. And I could pick multiple categories if the parameters are common between the two. To show you an instance of this, if we look at, let's say, the rooms, I can select the room category and then Naviate will load all the applicable parameters, whether it be instance or type. So if I select the instance, what I can now do is take existing parameters from the room, combine them, and then populate them somewhere else automatically in my system. So if we want to populate, let's say, the room tag, I may want to take, for instance, the room name. So I could take the room name and populate it in here. And let's say, for instance, I also want to take the level. So this is now going to build a new parameter called name level. You've got the ability to put suffixes and prefixes in. So we may go with a suffix here and it goes name dash level. Then you can control where that information is going to end. So you can see the destination parameter. So when we select the drop down, you can then select any of the applicable parameters. So what we want to do is probably put it into the space room tag. What Naviate will now do is it will take the data that we've selected, it will format it as per the preview, and then automatically apply that across the board in the system. The ideal thing to do in Naviate is once you start seeing the save and save as buttons, is that we can save this into the project so it can always be automatically done. So here I can go save as. I can just say space. Now I can give that any name. You may get your own name conventions, but now this is now saved in the system. And I could build lots of these things to happen and I could have them automatically run. So we could just click the combine value button now. And what this will do, it will go through my complete project and it will take that data that I've said. You'll see straight away behind in the schedule, see 260 elements have now been updated, combined automatically. So you can see there, we can have that just run and it will just combine that information. The real speed in Naviate comes by selecting the drop down, and we've got a button called Batch Combine. What Batch Combine can do is that it can take all your individual settings and preset routines where you're concatenating this data together, and then we can have them run as a standard default. So you can see now the space room tag is going to run as a batch. You select OK. Now obviously the data has been updated already. You're starting to see the principle that we could start to populate other information, let's say, into the description. So again, if we go to combine, we look at the room data again, and we pull more information, concatenate it together, and then put it into the description. So we take the rooms, and we can go with something a little bit strange or wonderful. So you could go with, let's say, the area, and then we could go with the perimeter. Again, you can build that whatever way you want. And again, we can that into wherever. So we want to put that into the Kobe space description. Again, if I click save and we just put space description, that will then be saved. Now we have a space room tag set up, and we've also got a space description. Now, at this point, I don't want to combine them. I'm just going to click close because I've just cataloged that and saved it. And that means then if I go to the batch combine, I can run both of these off at the same time. Now, running the batch combine is great, but you still have to actually physically go in, select the batch button, and then click OK. But what we can also do in Naviate is automate that process even further. So if you don't want to have to do this or remember to have to do it, we can use the configure button within Naviate, select the configure, and you will see that under 5 major milestone events within your project, saving, printing, exporting, syncing, or manual, we can get Naviate. If we scroll down, you will see we've got a batch combine. If we select this under saving, that means every time we save our project, Naviate will look at them combined routines and automate the population of that data. So we can click OK. Now I can click save. Because we've set that routine to automatically run, it can just go off, it will save the project, and it will also then start to populate that batching combiner. So with conjunction with the edit parameter tool, where we've got the ability to edit and manipulate data, then with the combine tool, we can move and shift data around the project. Then with batching, we can then just fully automate manipulation of moving that data however you. So there is a couple of other tools in here that may be useful. We've got a match button, which allows you to match a parameter value. And this can be quite useful just looking at existing data that you have within your project, and you just want to look at what something has within a particular family. So here we could select, let's say, this particular window, and we could just have a look at its metadata. And we could add something a little bit strange and wonderful into it. So we could go into its type, and we could just put some information. So we could say, we could just put Naviate in there. What the match tool will do is it will allow me to lift that metadata from that family and apply it somewhere else within the project. The matching tool also works on linked objects. So we can go to Accelerate and select the match. You can see you can match it from an existing family, or we can match it from a value within a link. So here we may want to go to match the comments, the description from that particular family. So here we can take the comments of the window. I can click back into my model and I can select this roof. Click back in here and you can see now we can match the comments from the window, and we can make that parameter value appear within the roof value. So now when we click into the roof, you will see that we can match them comments across. So it's just another sort of advanced workflow that you may be interested in doing this. So when we start looking at this, that's sort of how we can modify and edit the parameters. But you sort of need to know where to look at times to see whether the data is inconsistent and where it's not correct. You may also want to start to look for some visual checks, just visually within your project, to see, is the data that you've got from your supply chain, does this model have the correct metadata in it? How are you finding it? How are you checking it? And this is where I use our color elements tool, and I use this sort of as a consistency check. So I can really quickly see, well, looking at a model, looking at a view, is the metadata correct? And is there any values that are not quite right? Or is there any values non-compliant? Or is there values that are just empty? So they've just missed that data and the data doesn't exist. So the color element tool is designed to apply a graphic override to the view. Here you can see that I've got a view with no color override. It's just the standard out of the box Revit color scheme that I've got. But what Naviate allows you to do is, let's say, select a wall category. You can then have a color override applied to the view based upon the parameter that you want to check. So this is sort of nicely done if we were, for instance, checking a fire rating of the. So I can go to the type parameters, scroll down, and I can find fire rating. And you will see that it will quickly go in and colorize all the walls based upon a fire rating. You can see there, it's quickly telling me that all the walls have a fire rating of 60, so it's colored them on. Within this color scheme, I can click the tile and I can give it a different color. We can select OK. And it will go off and update and graphically override that view to suit it. But if we're sort of looking at the COBie side of things, so if we were to look at some of the information, let's say that we were available to do within here. So if we were to look at, let's say, we will pick the category. You will see that all the walls have a category set within here. So if we're looking for something going, actually, this category here, 43.cb, shouldn't be in there. So we can actually select this within the list. And if you have this checkbox ticked for show elements and properties, when you're selecting it in the list from the color element override, you can see you can edit that particular type. So I could go into here, manipulate, and look at that keynote. You can see the type category is set 43C. So we could delete that out and we could remove and change that, and we could take it out there. Then when we click apply, okay, so we physically made a change to that by just selecting it from the list. Now when I click refresh, you will see that color scheme has now changed because there is a value that I'm looking for within that type category within the COBie data, which is non-compliant. And automatically when the value is non-compliant, you will see it goes red. So you can easily come in here and just look at a particular category, then look at the particular parameter, and Naviate will graphically override that, show you really quickly, okay, that's where there's non-consistent data. That's what we need to go back to our supply chain with to say, look, there's nothing in here, you need to do it. And just the color element then just provides that really quick, easy interface to just easily see within any view what may be non-compliant. And it also works within 3D views. So if we click into this view, we can look at the color element tool again, and you will see in this view there's some mad colors being used. That's because there is already a view filter in use. So I can just click remove. We can go back to the standard view, and again I can click in, select the wall category, then choose a type parameter, look at some of the COBie parameters that are sitting in there, and it will build a color scheme reflective to suit my particular parameter. So we can scroll down our list of parameters. We can look at the, say, the area parameter. You can see everything's got a no value, so everything is going to appear red. What we really want to look for is something that has different values. There's nothing in finish. Just quickly name. You can see there it's populating a color scheme based upon all the different names of the walls. Now, you may not want to do that, but it sometimes just provides that really good visual check to see what you're doing. And then what you can do when you're building this, at the minute, it's a color override. So we may want to go in and build a view filter. So for those of you who are building view filters in Revit, is not particularly hard to do. It probably takes you 1 or 2 minutes to build one. Selecting this button, I can just create 10 in a matter of seconds. Selecting close, then selecting visibility graphics. You will see under the filters, I've just built this new filter within my view, and then the new Revit functionality in the last couple of years means that I can just turn on and off visibility based on certain filters. Select apply, you can turn off this green wall, and you will see we start to hide most of our product, but we're not hiding it off, but it's just based on the filter. So it's a really nice way to go through, find any inconsistent data just to check it, and a very quick visual graphic view to show you what's working and what's not working from the models that you're getting in. You will also start to look at, when you get these models in from your supply chain, you may need to clean them up, to federate them. You need to strip out some of the stuff that they're doing, or also maybe they're having to do this as well, in just having an ability to strip out and clean up that project. And we've got tools for that as well. You'll see under our project drop down, we've got a manage button. We've got a range of tools in here just to allow you to just manage that project. We've got the one that I use nearly weekly is my project cleanup tool. So if I need to supply a model, I need to strip it out. I don't want people seeing certain information with the views, the sheets, and just all the other stuff that's not always required when you're federating supplying this model out to other stakeholders is that we can use project cleanup. Now, when I click it, it will prompt me to save the project because I can make catastrophic changes to this project by stripping out and cleaning it all up. So I'm going to save it first. So I've got my standard view. So I'm just going to save it. You will remember that because I'm saving, it's also going to do that batch combine update and update them parameter values in case there has been a change my last save. So it will just slowly go through, quickly save the project, and then we can then run the project cleanup tool. So now when I select project cleanup, we get a series of radio buttons that allows us to basically toggle on and off the things that we want to strip out of the file. Starting at the top, we get an option to save as, which is probably a really, really good thing to do. If you don't have this ticked on, it will strip out the current project. So I want to save as a copy. I then want to specify a folder. So I'm going right to my desktop and I've just got a new model, which is going to be called Navigate Clean. I can then go through and I toggle on and off different things that I want to strip out of the file. So do I want to delete the model views? And you can see you've got different options where you can delete stuff that's set with a disciplined coordination. You can delete the information not on sheets. You'll also see that you can delete things that are not checked. Now within each view, you'll see that there is a do not purge navigate parameter. You could toggle that on and off to strip out certain views or not. And it's the same with sheets. You can delete all the sheets or all the stuff that's not checked. You can strip out the revisions, any schedules and reports, any Revit links, CAD links, imports, area and boundary lines, any unused scope boxes, any unused view filters, any images, and any view templates. Then you can go, okay, yes, I want to clean up. So if you were to do this on its own, it might take you 45 minutes to an hour to just go through, look at that. But with Navigate, you simply go in, click Save As, select your options, and then select Cleanup. And it will just go off and automate that process. It will probably take about 30 seconds. It's just going through, stripping out all the options. Now I'm taking everything out of my file, but you could go through and just do whatever you need. And then you can see it's now doing Save As. It's then stripping the file, and it's going to pop that Navigate or that Revit project out into that folder. So just again, a nice way just to again look at that possibility of stripping that model out, because it's quite a time-consuming process that you may have. You may be getting it in from your supply chain, it's got everything, and you just want to work on a subset and a simplified model. This is the tool then just to run. You can see now within about 30 seconds, that's now saved and stripped off. And there is other things in here where you can track the CAD files. So if you're getting stuff through where you just want to take out some of the CAD files, this just lists where the DWG files may be, and you can simply turn them on and off within the views. And if they're off and not in use, you can click delete and you can simply strip out that CAD view. And there's other things around when you get a project through and they've got millions of view filters applied to different views and you don't know whether stuff's visible or not. This view filter manager is a really, really simple way. Based upon a simple matrix, you can select the view filter name and it will tell you in which view that view filter is in use. You'll see this wall structural is in use in 29 views and 23 templates. So I can just tick it off. That's just removing that view filter from use within that view, and it just updates the list, and you can tick it off your elevations. Just a really simple way. Scroll down your list, see where everything is in use, and again you can switch it into view templates. You can look at ticking it on and off. So there's some nice little things in there just to sort of manage that project. And then when we sort of move it on to, you've got the project, you may need to start looking at, is there a way to export the project out? Do you need to create different file types from it? Do you need to go to Excel? Do you need to print it just a PDF? We've got a range of tools under our print, export and import panel. You'll see we've got a publish tool. Just to run you through some of the quick features of this. This is a tool which can automate publish routines. So you can set these up either yourself or within projects just to automate what you may need to print or what you may need to export. So we have the ability to go to a print. So whether that's a physical paper or PDF, you can create a configuration for printing. We can also export the project out to DWGs, IFCs, NWC, and then we've also got the ability to go to direct to a PDF. Just to show you some of the functionality, if we look at the printing setup, we can click the cog. This will then show me the configuration of how I can set up and export certain views and sheets out in my project. So here I can select a printer, whatever printer you may be using, whether you're going to PDF or not, and then choose what you want to print, so whether it be all the sheets of views, whether it be a sheet set, sheet list, or whether you're driving it by a parameter. So here I could go with a sheet set. I can export that out to a folder and combine this. So I'm going to print a series of plans out into separate files, and you can also use the standard Revit naming convention, but you can also build in your own naming convention, which if you've got the parameters, you can align that to 19650 if you wish. But it's just a matter of clicking the parameters, similar to what we looked at with the batch parameter routine. You just select your parameters, and you build suffixes and prefixes into it, and you'll see you get a preview down the bottom of what you do. So you just build it the way that you want the system to print, and then you click OK, and then it's saved here, and then you just activate that when you publish, selecting the publish button. If the configurations are ticked on, Naviate will automatically go off and do all that publishing. On the DWG side of things, so if you wish to have going out to DWGs, you can click sheet set again with a folder location with the naming convention, and it takes the standard configuration settings from the Revit exporter out. So if you are aligning to the ISO standard, that will just align with that. We have the ability to do an NWC, so should you wish to again create the export out to Navis, you can come in, select your views, you can say click the zone areas, again specifying it to a location and to the Navisworks settings as well. You can configure that, clicking OK, and again you're just building up these different configurations to sit within the file in the project, and then when different stakeholders come in, you can just run them off. It's the same with IFC, again building upon the standard Revit exports. You can select your view, select a location, and then you can simply click publish. What Naviate will do, as I said, just go through each of them routines and do it all in one go. So rather than going and doing 10 different PDF exports via the Revit side of things, then exporting out to DWG, Navisworks, and IFC, this configurator can then be saved as a batch on my Friday export. I can come in, click publish, and then it goes off and does everything out to your different various configurations, and there's no limit to the amount of configurations you have. Another nice thing is our quick print feature. So within Revit, you can only print sort of one size sheet each time. So if we look at my plans, I've got various different plans, but selecting, let's say, 3 or 4 different plan sheets in the browser, selecting quick print allows me to just fire them out to PDF automatically. And the beauty of Naviate is it's got this little tick box. So it will actually lift the paper size from the title block definition. So if that's an A1, A2, and A3, it doesn't matter. It just does it all in one go. And again, you specify it out to a folder. You can create them as a single file. Again, with naming conventions, should you wish. So if we want to do something like that, or you can use your own, where you can go in and then again build that naming parameter. You can see 4 sheets will be printed based on the title block sizes. So again, just that extra time saving piece to get that information. You will notice that we've got some tools just looking at the IFC side of things. So when we select the IFC button, it just gives us a little subset of extra tools that are in here. Now, I'm not going to show you every one because it will take a little bit more time. But if you do want to see more on the IFC, just give myself or Richard a shout. We can do some one-to-one sessions on this. But I sort of want to take you to this tool. This is my favorite IFC tool within Naviate, and it's the ability just to start assigning that class by family. So when we select the tool, it loads a little dialog box. You'll see that as a standard, Revit has classified everything based upon a global class. So when it's a piece of furniture, it tends to just tell it this is a furniture, but we don't have any local classes, or we don't have any low types. And what we can do in here is when we select, you take the standard IFC for a slab or a floor within Revit, it tends just to come out just as floors. You don't really have any definition for its class or its type. But if we scroll down, we can find the different categories. You can see in here, if we look at some of the foundations, you can see that I've got a retaining footing. So I can select on the local class, I can select the drop down. Now it's reading them class types. So here I could go and assign this to, let's say, the slab type. You'll see it will then go in and assign that local class to the type in here, and then we can go in and drill down further and assign that data in again. So we can then go, okay, so it's now we know the local class is a slab, then actually what is the local type? And here we can then just define that extra level of information. So here we can go, actually, this is going to be, for instance, a base slab. And you get the principle that you can assign the local class and then the local type, all based upon drop down. So if you find, let's say, the stairs, you can select, well, this is a stair type, we select the drop down, and then you can actually go in and define that further level of information. So again, I'm not sort of familiar with what the stair type is. I'm going to say it's a half turn, and you can then select done, and that's just define that. So then when you go to export it, that information is embedded in for the class and then each of the local types. So I really do like that. Really quick way to just go in and just set it based upon what the family types are. So it's a really nice sort of feature in there. The next tool I want to show you is that although I've showed you how to edit parameters and everything within Naviate, we can also fire everything out into Excel. So here we can just go import export. We can then choose to export our schedules out. So for instance, if we look at the Kobe space, which is the sort of one I've edited, I can export that out to Excel. So I can just go export, and it will just fire it straight out to an Excel file. I select save, and then it will launch Excel and then show me that data directly fired out into Excel. And you can see it's just taking a matter of seconds. There you have that information then fired directly out to Excel. But if we run it again, you can start to take everything out. So I could take every schedule here, so I can select at the top level, and Naviate will go out and write this into one Excel file. But we can also use the ability for re-import. This is the really clever bit, is that we can fire it out into Excel, make changes in Excel, and then import that back into Revit to update that parameter value. So now I select everything, just call this all schedules. It will take a little bit more time because it's obviously taking all the schedule data and then writing that into one master Excel file. But because I'm using that re-import method, it means that I can go into Excel, do some manipulation of the data, put some formulas in. I could use pivot tables, whatever I'm trying to do to manipulate that machine. Within Excel, because we're using the re-import method, we can get Naviate to re-import that and then update that data. So you don't have to do it via the edit parameters or combine. We could use this Excel method. So it is just going to take a second because it's firing out quite a lot of data into the system. Just give it a second and it will just hopefully open up. I think it's taken out about 20 different schedules. Some of them Kobe schedules have quite a lot of information in it. So we will let this run. Hopefully it won't take much longer. But obviously you can appreciate it. There is no physical way in Revit to get this out into Excel. So this, even though it's taking probably about a minute, is going to automate and save you masses of time. So we just let this go. Now doing the wall lists and room lists. Just give it a second. About to launch Excel, hopefully. I've just got a little status bar on my second screen, which is showing me where it's done. Excel will launch. Here we go. Because we're using this re-import method, as I said, you can go in and you could manipulate any of this data. So if we look at, let's say, the component door schedule and we look under the description, we put Naviate in here and we just, drag this down through all the cells to here. We drop that in there and we just make sure we don't get some. We've put Naviate under the component description. We can click save, we can close, and when we go to export import, we can then just go through and we can look at that information. So we can import it all, or you can select import, pick the file. We go to our desktop, click all schedules. Then we can just import it all again, or we can actually just pick, I think it was the doors. We can go import, and it will just do a quick check to see what information is different between the two. So it's resulted in no errors. We can then close, we can go in group, and then we can just go in and look at that component door schedule, and it should have the, provided I've selected the right schedule. I think I have. You can see there under the description, we now have Naviate populated. So you've sort of got both workflows. You can do it within Naviate to find the data, manipulate it, edit it. Should you wish, fire it out into Excel, share the option to re-import, manipulate, change, edit the data there, and you can see there, it's right back straight in to my Revit environment. So just sort of coming towards the end, the last sort of point that we wanted to cover is Builders Works openings. And this is looking at what we call in the Naviate world a provision for a void. So it's the ability to look at joining disciplines together. So let's take architectural and mechanical, and we've got pipes and ducting going through walls. And can we provision that to have a system where we can recognize where these clashes are happening? And can we get the architect, let's say, to automatically put the openings in line with where I want to have them from a mechanical perspective? I'm just going to open up sort of a different model for this because I've got two different disciplines together. And I can show you very quickly the principle of what the Naviate system will do. So if we look at this MEP model, so this is a piping model with some ducting and pipes. And what we can do as the MEP contractor on this side of things is that we can build a provision in to sort of mark an area. There's a pipe going through a wall. This is the void or the opening that's needed. And we can send that back to the architect and say, look, this is where you need to do all these things. Then you need to actually put your openings in the wall. So you can see again under the Accelerate tool set, we've got this provision for voids button. Now, this is quite a large tool set. As you can see, it goes into its own contextual ribbon. You see, you've got lots of different options. Now, I'm not going to explain everything on this call, but I'm just going to run through the process of what we want to do is, in this model, I've got the architectural model linked in. So I've got this from my architect, and I'm the mechanical services engineer, and I want to look at provisioning around these walls, what needs to happen. So here I can go to provision for voids. I can set the architectural model as the target project. I can specify which discipline I want to provision. So in this case, I'm going to look for both structural and architectural, but I could just limit it just to the architectural elements. But I can click both. Grouping is just a parameter that we group the voids by. So I'm not going to spend much time on that, but we can look at what we're targeting. So from a mechanical perspective, I want to look at everything going through all the architectural elements, so walls, floors, ceilings, roofs. And then the target, am I going to check it against my pipes, my ducting, my conduit, my cables? So very simply, I'm taking the architectural model, checking everything, looking for pipe intersections. Here I've got a void system where I can look as an intersecting, which is a physical intersection through a wall, let's say, or a proximity warning to look at a particular distance from an element. But let's go with an intersecting. I can simply click create. It will go through and do an analysis of the two linked files. And then it will create a provision for where a void potentially needs to be. Then me as the building services engineer can go through and look at each of these voids and decide whether they're applicable. And that's the bit that we can send back to the architect to say, we've put a void in this place. Are you sure that you need it to be? So what Naviate has done is, if we look at Accelerate and we just filter that element, it creates what we call a generic model element. You will see it's created 21 of them, these positions. And when we go in and look at them, you will see that when we've got them through particular areas. So if we zoom in here, you will see that we've got a pipe going through the wall. If we just go in and select this, this is the provision that Naviate has put in. So it's just put a little generic model element that's found where the pipe goes through the wall. You can see here that it then has some of these parameters. It's got an oversize, it's got a diameter and a tilt angle, which we can modify. So we could say that, you know, I know this is in imperial, but we could say that we want a 1 inch, 25.4 millimeter provision around that pipe. So you can see there when we deselect it, it puts this little generic model element in here. When we select it, we can go to provision for voids, and we've got a provision status. And you'll see here in the properties currently, it's blank. So we've got 3 different types. We've got an accepted, and this means that we accept the provision and we're going to create the void, which is in theory what we want to do. But we could also apply, we could accept it conditionally, but do not create the void. So we may send that back to the architect and say, look, we need to have a look at this, or we can reject it and say, look, it's not applicable. But in this instance, what we could do is select all the elements and just generally just say they're accepted. I'm not going to take you through the workflow of selecting each one individually, so I will just select them all. Then we select elements. Here I can then just provision them all together, and we can just go accept. So that will then provide this accepted status in on the provision. So now that we can just save our model, so we've now saved that, and we can then now jump in and act as an architect on the flip side. So the mechanical engineers went through, provisioned all his voids, and put a status on them that I need to start looking at. So now I can go and look at my architectural project. I can then link in the mechanical one, which will have the provisions assigned and the status accepted. And then I can then go through, accept them into my model, and then Naviate will then go off and then provision them holes within the wall. So now when we go to manage, we will link the file in. Just go to add, and we will link in this file. I'm just linking it in, same coordinates, and then this will obviously have the provisions within that file. So we let it link in. That is that there. And then we can run the provision for voids tool. So again, we click in provision for voids. We want to provision the project mechanical. Again, we just click the create button because the voids are created. We just need to load them into our project. We'll go through and it will just build, take the acceptance from the mechanical file. Provisions will then get replicated in here. We've got options to synchronize and all this, you know, sort of advanced workflows for how you may work several different iterances and changes within the project. But in essence, what it's doing now, it's looking at the mechanical file, looking at where the building services or mechanical engineer has accepted and assigned an accepted status to them provisions. That's now just building them into my architectural file with the parameters and the changes and any of the oversizing or the tilting of them provisions. And then we'll analyze them into my model. So you'll see down in the status bar, it's just analyzing the intersections, bringing them all through. Hopefully in a second or two, we can then go through and have a little look at some of these provisions. Just give it a second. Always a little bit slower when you're doing it live. Let's go through, have a look at some of these provisions. See down the status bar, it's now creating them. There's over, I think there's about 80 to 90 different provisions that should come through. So now there's 89 created. Click close. Again, we can run the accelerate and filter tool. Because this is quite a busy view, I'm just going to look at my generic model elements. We can look at, you know, just some of the round stuff, or you could drill it down. So just take these PVC wall ones. We can select elements, and you know, a quite easy way just to box it. Then have a little look and see. boxed in here, and we could just go, to make it easier, just go to wireframe. You will start to see there is that provision that is there. We can go through and select it. You will see there's the provision that's been accepted. If we just run through on our provision for voids, we just accept that into our model. You will now see that that is now there. And if we just isolate that object, we just have a quick look at it. Spin that here, you will see there is your provision that has come through. Just make sure I select it. You see there's the provision that has then come through. So you're sort of starting to see that workflow, is that we can, as a mechanical engineer, we can take it through. The provision then comes through, and it will cut and void out all these places we want. You can see they're all in here, they're all linked across, and then we can manipulate and sort of follow that journey as well. And again, you know, similar to the IFC tools, this is quite a large sort of tool set and lots of intricate workflows that can be there when doing it. So I hope sort of in that whirlwind sort of, you know, 45 minutes, it's taking you through to have a look at some of the subset of tools available that can hopefully be good for some of the construction guys and looking at these workflows to help or navigate sort of and sit.